Hello and welcome to my presentation on Operation Gabriel. This was the tour of 23 Parachute Field Ambulance, 23 PFA, with the United Nations Assistance Mission in Rwanda, or UNIMID 2. This went from the 8th of August to the 20th of November 1994. That's for myself. Some others who were on the tour had slightly different timings. So earlier I put up a presentation that I made a number of years ago about the tour in Rwanda. However, what I put up was just the slides themselves with no narration. So it's pretty average, to be honest. So I thought I'd have another crack at it and do some more kind of in depth, but with some more details and a bit of narration to add a bit of context. So, Operation Gabriel Part 1, Journey There. Yes, I want to expand a little bit more. This is the sort of physical journey there, i.e. from being on exercise on Salisbury Plain to 7 days later being in Rwanda. And also, how did I get there as a soldier myself? Um, how did I get to the parachute unit? And what was a bit of background around there? Don't worry, it's just a brief overview. Nothing quite as monotonous as someone banging about what I did back in the day, so that won't take too long. So just prior to my deployment to Rwanda in August, I'd returned from a tour with UNPROFOR to Bosnia-Herzegovina at Vitez on Rappel 4. UNPROFOR is the United Nations Protection Force for Bosnia. And I was posted to the field hospital, the surgical unit there for a 6-month tour. As you can see there on the left, you've got the unit sign at the front of the unit, and to the right is myself. To the right and to the left is the CPNI Community Psychiatric Nurse, Lieutenant or Captain. That's towards the end of the tour. I think the snow's just melting, which is why the ambo's a bit manky at the bottom there because there's quite a bit of mud. Just a couple of views of some of the areas around Vitez. So you had the school itself where the main HQ was, Command Post 6, etc. And then various other units scattered around like the surgical unit. That's the warrior part there with, strangely enough, some warriors. I think they're the culture and guard ones. We took over, whilst we were there, the PWOs were taken over by the Coldstream Guards. The warrior part or vehicle part got pretty manky winter, as you can imagine. And just a view from the surgical facility over to the command area. That's the VTES school there. And we're just off the one-way track that went round, so all vehicles went out the same way. And it's just that armoured vehicle going on some patrol. So following the end of the tour in Bos, I got posted to 23 PFA in Aldershot as part of 5 Airborne. And the plan was to do the paraselection pass and then move on to do the jumps course. So the pictures just show some various activities of P Company. This is when it's based in Aldershot. I did my 3-week pre-para in Aldershot, so I used that Trinasium, went on quite a few tabs, and then we moved to Cataract Garrison to do P Company or Pegasus Company, which was a 3-week course. I won't bore you with the activities on P Company because it's been covered more than enough, but I will link to the cutting edge video, which is pretty good, which was a few years earlier, but it hadn't really changed that much. And just a few pictures, British Parawings at RMC or 23 PFA DZ or drop zone patch and Pegasus patch. So like I say, plan was take P Company, which I did, and then move on to the jumps course. These photos are from a DZ cover that I did. There's DZ mid cover. You just see standard British Army LLP or low level parachute exiting out the hook. picture. This one is just a few seconds later as the main body drops. Prior to that, back in '87, I did a year of junior leaders at Field. A year of people shouting at me loudly with using very hurtful tones, which was probably quite deserved because I wasn't particularly switched on. But yeah, just fairly some basic images from there one. So 23 parachute field helmets or 20 PFA. Part of 5 Airborne Brigade, which is based in Aldershot. The brigade was made up of the usual sort of assets, it's engineer, a couple of infantry battalions, and Med. So Med was 23 PFA. 23 was made up of sections, so 3, 4, 5 sections. And those sections collected the casualty and moved them back to the dressing station of the DS. DS was split into 3 different parachute clearance troops. One was to be parachuted in, so airborne capability, and the other 2, one was tactical air landing operations or TALO, and one was wheeled, so it could be paratrain or non-paratrain for that. Personnel, not everybody was paratrained in 23 PFA. People will be posted in and then go on to do the P company selection and jumps. So there's a mix of para and non-para. Sections were mainly paratrained because that was their role. Whereas, as I just described, DS had a non-para element as well. So that's mainly non-para-trained personnel. I was non-para-trained, and due to my job description, I was going to go to the DS anyway. So yeah, I was in the DS. That was a large check there. So Rwanda. So Rwanda is obviously in Africa. You can see from the map there, it's east of the Democratic Republic of Congo, or whatever it's called now, north of Burundi, south of Uganda. It's over to the east of the continent. When we were warned of going to Rwanda, we're just in the midst of finishing a 2 or 3 week big airborne exercise down on Salisbury Plain. And there's always a rumour that there's going to be index or end of an exercise early. Well, it never happens. It's just a rumour that's always spread around. But much to our surprise, this time it did happen. We all gathered in and told it was index early. A small hook on that one was the fact that we were going to some place called Rwanda. Now, I had heard of Rwanda. I heard that there were a few tensions there, but hadn't really cross-related to what we were doing. So she was a bit of a surprise. But yeah, so from exercise to deployment was basically 7 days. So Rwanda's got 3 distinct ethnic groups. There's the Hutus, who make up 85% of the population base. Hutus are pastoral people. And then there's the Tutsi. They make up approximately 14% of the population base. They're traditionally pastoral people, and they came down to Rwanda around about the 15th century. And the Tawa, who are an indigenous hunter-gatherer group, that made up about 1% of the population. Now, Rwanda was colonized in the 19th century by Belgiques. I think the Germans took over after a later point. But as is the norm with colonial powers, the British in India was ruled by splitting the cultural groups up. The Tutsis were given some better privileged positions, this caused some resentment. And after independence and handing over back of power, there are a number of incidents leading up to the 1994 massacre or genocide. I won't go into those, but yeah, it's quite an interesting history. On April the 6th, 1994, the Rwandan and Burundian prisoners were both on a plane, which was attacked, a rocket attack, and they were both killed. They were both Hutus, and this event triggered a 100-day a period of violence, causing 800,000 people to die. At the end of the conflict, the three-month conflict, the population in Rwanda had to decline from 8.2 to 4.4 million. Let's say 800,000 of those have died. The infrastructure of the country had also suffered serious damage, and the economy was severely dislocated. Those who had fled, the majority went to Congo or Zaire, particularly around Goma, and they had issues with malnutrition and cholera. So 3 weeks after the conclusion of the Civil War, in July 1994, the decision was taken to deploy BritCon as part of UNAMID 2, of which 23 PFA was a major element. So the idea of deploying these units was to provide a secure place or security to the area so that people, the refugees, would feel more confident in moving back. For example, the cholera and dysentery outbreak in the northeast of Rwanda had claimed 20,000 people, and some 600 people a day were dying at the start of the BritCon deployment. So just a couple of images from Rwanda. This was Gabriel Church, which was we came across when we went to the refugee centre there later on in the tour. A few nasty stories about what happened there, but as you can see, it's burnt out. And just a picture of the preferred method of choice of killing in the genocide, which was machetes. Again, we saw lots of casualties with machete wounds who had been assaulted with machetes, so pretty nasty weapon and very effective. So the idea of 23 PFA and BritCon's deployments was to provide some stability, and it's just a stock image taken at the time. They wanted those millions of people who had fled to come back to restabilize the country and make it so that the economy worked. The agreed mission statement for 23 Parafield Ambulance Group is to provide humanitarian assistance in the northwest of Rwanda in order to encourage refugees to return to the country from Zaire or the Congo. This we did in that our first deployment of roughly 2 weeks was at Rwanda, where we went after we landed. So this was the plane that took us to Rwanda from Bryce Norton. This is the US Air Force Starlifter or Galaxy, one of the two. Bloody big though. It took us about 8 hours, I think. There's refueling halfway. Much bigger than the Herc. Much better ride than the Herc. Spend a couple of hours in the Herc, you soon regret that. This wasn't too bad. It's just like a passenger liner, but without the comforts. Yeah, so arrived on Chalk 3, and funny thing, Chalk 4 and 5 afterwards were delayed at Mildenhall, so they got a couple of nice days at the Americans' hospitality. We were stuck on the ground. But yeah, so I arrived on this one and then moved to the airport. This is the day after arriving. This is Kigali Airport. And you can see we're packing up. No beds or anything, and the floor wasn't the most comfortable, but such is life. And from there we moved there to the trucks to go to Rwanda. All right, I'm going to pause now and think about doing parts 2 and 3, which is going up north and going down south again, depending on the reception of this video. Well, good, thank you.
The operation to bring aid into Rwanda is gradually getting underway, and the first flight into Kigali early this morning was an RAF Hercules carrying an advance party which will deploy alongside the Americans already at the airport. Much in this region has been damaged by war, and it's taking a lot of outside effort to get the airport and military communications and transport systems up and running, so that aid can begin to flow. Therefore, most of the flights in at the moment are military equipment. 5 British Hercules are expected today, more tomorrow. About 600 British troops will be coming. They'll join the multinational UNIMIR force wearing UN blue berets.
We are here as part of UNIMIR to carry out the humanitarian relief operation, the humanitarian relief side of UNIMIR's mission, and principally we'll be concentrating our efforts on engineer support and medical support to UNIMIR.
What about a peacekeeping role?
That is no part of my mission.
And the delicate political and security situation here underlies the military cautiousness that their mission is only humanitarian. There is deep apprehension on the part of most contributing nations about military or long-term involvement in this unstable region. The main task of the British will be to set up medical treatment stations along the road which returning refugees are using from the camps in Zaire. Officially, for the moment, none of the aid organizations are helping refugees to come home because of the problems of disease. However, many are making their way across country and are extremely weak and ill. These troops will be helping to feed and treat them, as well as contributing engineering effort to the aid operation. It is taking time, but no one's quite sure how to balance the acute problems facing desperate refugees immediately with the possibly disastrous developments if huge numbers of people begin to move again, or if fighting restarts. Kate Adie, BBC News, Kigali.